Hey there, crypto adventurers. Are you ready for another deep
As
dive?
always.
This time we're strapping in for a wild ride through the latest crypto roller coaster.
Sounds fun.
We've got news that'll make your head spin, a mind-boggling heist, surprising altcoin rallies, and
Oh.
maybe even a touch of planetary alignment thrown in for good measure.
I love it when the stars align.
It's fascinating how, even when the overall crypto market is down, there are always pockets of innovation and growth happening.
Yeah,
It's a testament to the resilience of this space.
absolutely. It's like a proving ground. Only the strong survive.
Okay, so let's jump right into the deep end with a Bybit heist.
Ooh, that one was a doozy.
This wasn't your average crypto hack, folks. We're talking about a whopping $1.5 billion hit.
Wow.
It's enough to make anyone question the security of their digital assets.
Yeah, that could very well be the biggest dollar value theft in recent history. But what's interesting is that while it exposes vulnerabilities, it also showcases a key difference between traditional finance and crypto.
Okay.
Transparency. Everything is out in the open on the blockchain for everyone to see.
So how did the hackers manage to pull off such a massive heist?
They used a sophisticated technique called UI spoofing.
UI spoofing, what is that?
Basically, they tricked Bybit signers into approving malicious smart contracts by making them look like routine transfers.
Oh, wow.
It's a stark reminder that even experienced teams can fall victim to these kinds of attacks.
That's scary. What can individual investors do to protect themselves from something like this?
The Bybit hack highlights the importance of understanding how blind signing works and the risks involved.
Okay.
When you're using a hardware wallet, always double-check every detail of the transaction you're approving, even if it seems routine.
Makes sense.
Don't just blindly click approve. Another layer of security you can consider is using multi-sig wallets, which require multiple parties to approve a transaction, making it much harder for hackers to compromise.
So multiple points of failure, got it. It's good to know there are ways to mitigate these risks.
Definitely, security is paramount.
So in this case, Bybit lost $1.5 billion, but what about their customers?
That's where the transparency of blockchain comes in. Bybit was completely upfront with the community about the hack and assured everyone that no customer funds were lost.
Okay, good.
They kept withdrawals running, and they even managed to process $4 billion worth of withdrawals in just 48 hours.
Wow, $4 billion in 48 hours.
Yeah,
It really makes you think about how traditional banks would handle a situation like this.
exactly.
I mean, would they even be able to?
It really speaks to the efficiency and resilience of decentralized systems.
Right.
In the traditional financial system, a situation like this could lead to frozen accounts, delays, and a lot of panic.
For sure. There was some talk about potentially rolling back the Ethereum chain to reverse the hack. What are your thoughts on that?
Rolling back the Ethereum chain is a non-starter for a few reasons.
Okay.
Firstly, it goes against the very principle of blockchain immutability,
Right.
which is the idea that transactions are permanent and can't be altered.
Yeah.
Secondly, it sets a dangerous precedent. If we start rolling back the chain every time there's a hack, it undermines the entire system
For sure.
and creates uncertainty and distrust. The Bybit situation, while unfortunate, reinforces the need for robust security practices at every level, from individual users to exchanges and developers.
It's a good reminder that security is paramount in the crypto world.
Always.
Okay, so we've covered the dark side of the crypto roller coaster with the Bybit hack.
Right.
But believe it or not, there are actually some sunny spots amid all the market turbulence.
Really?
Let's shift gears and head over to the altcoin oasis, where some surprising players are thriving despite the downturn.
Oh, I'm interested to hear about that.
It all comes down to finding those projects that offer genuine utility and have a strong community backing them. They're the ones building and innovating regardless of the market sentiment.
The true believers.
One project that caught my eye is HyperLiquid, a Layer 1 decentralized exchange, DEX, that's been making some serious waves.
Have they?
They've actually managed to flip Ethereum in daily revenue, have a super active community, and are expanding beyond trading with their new Hyper EVM.
That's impressive.
What's driving their success?
HyperLiquid is a great example of how focusing on user experience and building a strong ecosystem can lead to success, even in a bear market.
Right.
They've made it easy for users to trade and interact with their platform, and they've attracted a lot of developers building innovative applications on top of their blockchain.
Makes sense, but I've also heard some concerns about HyperLiquid's centralized validator structure.
Uh-huh.
Is that something we should be worried about?
You're right to point that out.
Yeah.
Centralization is always a trade-off. While it can improve efficiency in the short term, it introduces potential risks. If a small number of validators control the network, they have a lot of power.
Oh, yeah.
And that can make the system vulnerable to attacks or manipulation.
Gotcha.
HyperLiquid needs to demonstrate their commitment to decentralization as they grow.
Okay.
In contrast, projects like, say, Injective, which have a more decentralized validator set from the outset, offer a different approach that prioritizes security and community ownership.
So it's a reminder to always look beyond the hype and consider the long-term implications of centralization versus decentralization.
Absolutely, a classic crypto dilemma.
Now let's talk about another interesting project, Sonic.
Okay.
This is the rebranded Phantom Chain. And they're doing something quite unique by focusing on sending fees to decentralized applications, or dApps.
Interesting.
What's the thinking behind this approach?
This strategy aligns with the Fat App thesis,
Fat app, I like that.
which suggests that the true value in a blockchain ecosystem lies in the applications built on top of it, rather than just the underlying protocol itself.
Okay, so it's about what you can do on it.
Yeah, by redirecting fees to dApps, Sonic is incentivizing developers to build and innovate on their platform.
So they're attracting the builders.
Exactly.
And they've been seeing some pretty impressive growth numbers. At one point, they were leading in terms of trades and users per day.
Wow.
Definitely one to keep an eye on.
For sure.
But the story that really blew my mind is Aptos and the power of, well, one guy with a meme.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds almost too good to be true, right?
Tell me more.
But it's a perfect example of how community engagement and a bit of creativity can go a long way. Seriously, this guy was relentlessly spamming every crypto influencer with his Aptos memes until it actually caught on. He called it sidelined, and even the Aptos CTO acknowledged him.
No way.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
That's hilarious and brilliant.
It's a testament to the power of a good narrative and a dedicated community.
It really is.
And it goes beyond just the meme. Aptos is strategically positioning itself for the Pay ID narrative, which aims to simplify crypto payments and make them more user-friendly.
Interesting.
This could be a major catalyst for growth down the line.
Yeah, the payments angle's always big.
Okay, so we've got these exciting altcoin projects pushing boundaries and defying the bear market.
Right.
But then there's this other side of the coin.
Uh-oh.
This question of whether there are simply too many altcoins out there. We're talking about millions of new tokens hitting the market, all vying for a limited pool of capital. Is the market oversaturated?
That's a complex question.
Yeah.
And it requires a bit of nuance to unpack. While it's true that millions of tokens have been minted, the vast majority lack real economic value.
Oh, okay.
They might be hyped up for a short period, but they ultimately fade away. The real competition, the projects with real utility, active communities, and a clear vision, hasn't grown that much.
So it's not just about the sheer number of tokens. It's about quality over quantity.
Exactly. Think of it like this.
Okay.
You have a project like XRP,
Right.
which has a clear use case as a bridge currency for international transfers, a strong team behind it, and a track record of partnerships. Then you have meme coins that are basically riding a wave of hype and speculation.
Yeah.
They might generate buzz for a while, but they don't offer any real value or utility.
So it's like comparing apples to oranges.
Exactly.
But how does this all play out in the market?
Well, we've seen how the explosion of DEX token launches, while flooding the market with new tokens, actually drove up demand for base layer coins like SOL. To buy these new tokens, investors first had to buy SOL.
Right.
This fueled Solana's massive price surge during the meme coin craze.
Interesting.
But it also created a sort of liquidity vacuum where capital was flowing into low-value tokens instead of projects with real potential.
So even though the overall crypto market was growing, the capital wasn't being distributed evenly.
Right.
It's like a Pareto distribution where the biggest cryptos keep getting bigger.
That's a good analogy. And this uneven distribution of capital has real consequences.
Like what?
It can make it harder for promising projects to get the funding they need to develop.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it can create a lot of volatility in the market as investors chase the latest hype cycles.
Okay, well, let's dig into that a little deeper after the break.
Sounds good.
So we've got this situation where millions of new tokens are popping up, but the capital isn't necessarily flowing to the most promising projects.
Yeah.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
It is. It really is.
For someone who's just starting out in crypto, it can be really overwhelming.
Absolutely. And it's not just newcomers who feel overwhelmed. Even seasoned investors struggle to keep up with the constant influx of new projects and shifting market trends.
So how can investors, both new and experienced, navigate this complex landscape and make informed decisions about where to allocate their capital?
Well, one key is understanding how capital flows work in the crypto market. Traditionally, when people first enter the crypto space, they often start by looking at websites like CoinMarketCap. Naturally, they see Bitcoin and Ethereum at the top, dominating the market.
Makes sense. They're the most well-known, the most established, and often perceived as the safest bets.
Right. Some people might be drawn to Bitcoin's digital gold narrative, while others simply buy it because it's the most liquid cryptocurrency. But then you have those who feel like they've missed the boat on Bitcoin's early gains. They start looking for the next big thing.
And that's where the altcoin rabbit hole begins.
Exactly. They start researching Ethereum, but then they realize that Ethereum has a whole ecosystem of competitors.
Oh, yeah.
Like Solana, Cardano, Avalanche, and countless others.
So instead of putting all their eggs in one basket, they spread their investments across various Ethereum competitors, hoping to catch the next wave.
That's one aspect of it, but there's another layer to this dilution effect that we touched upon earlier.
Okay.
Remember those millions of new tokens being launched on decentralized exchanges, or DXs?
You mean those that were paired with base layer coins like SOL?
Precisely, to buy those new tokens, investors first had to acquire SOL. So every time a new meme coin was listed and traded on a DEX, it essentially increased the demand for SOL, pushing its price up.
That explains why Solana saw such a massive price surge during the meme coin craze.
Exactly. It created this frenzy where billions of dollars were flowing into these low-value tokens instead of being directed towards more established altcoins with real utility and potential.
So it's not just a matter of investors spreading their bets across different altcoins. It's also about this liquidity vacuum created by the influx of new, often low-value tokens.
Right, and this brings us to a crucial point. Regulation could significantly alter this dynamic.
Okay, let's talk about regulation. It's often seen as a double-edged sword. It can bring legitimacy and mainstream adoption, but it can also stifle innovation. How do you see regulation playing out in the altcoin market?
Regulation is inevitable. The key is to find a balance that protects investors without stifling the development of this transformative technology. We're already seeing signs of this with the potential approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF in the U.S.
That would be huge. What kind of ripple effect would a spot Bitcoin ETF have on the altcoin market?
A spot Bitcoin ETF would make it much easier for traditional investors, particularly those who are accustomed to investing through their banks or brokerage accounts, to gain exposure to Bitcoin.
So instead of having to navigate the complexities of setting up a crypto wallet and buying Bitcoin on an exchange, they could simply buy shares of a Bitcoin ETF through their existing investment accounts.
Exactly, and as more institutional investors enter the space, it could lead to a surge in demand for Bitcoin, driving up its price. But here's where it gets interesting. A rising tide lifts all boats. As Bitcoin's price goes up, it often creates a positive sentiment in the overall crypto market, benefiting altcoins as well.
So even though the ETF is specifically for Bitcoin, it could have a positive knock-on effect on the entire crypto ecosystem.
Precisely, and we've seen this happen before. During previous bull markets, as Bitcoin's price soared, altcoins often followed suit, experiencing their own impressive price rallies.
So for altcoin investors, the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF could be a very welcome development.
It could be a sign of mainstream acceptance and could potentially bring in a wave of new investors and capital.
But what about the altcoins themselves? Are there any specific altcoins that you think stand to benefit more than others from this potential influx of capital?
It's impossible to predict the future with certainty, but historically, certain types of altcoins have tended to perform well during periods of overall market growth.
Right.
For example, layer one blockchains, which are essentially the foundation upon which other applications and services are built, often see increased demand as developers and users flock to their ecosystems.
So projects like Solana, Cardano, Avalanche, and others could see a surge in interest and investment.
Potentially, but it's important to remember that not all layer one blockchains are created equal.
Oh, of course.
Some have stronger technical foundations, more active developer communities, and better partnerships than others.
It's a reminder to always do your research and understand the fundamentals of a project before investing. What about other categories of altcoins? Are there any other sectors that you're particularly bullish on?
Decentralized finance, or DeFi, continues to be a hotbed of innovation.
For sure.
We've seen projects offering lending, borrowing, trading, and other financial services, all without the need for intermediaries. This space is constantly evolving, and as regulation brings more clarity and legitimacy to the crypto market, I expect DeFi to continue to grow and attract significant investment.
So a spot Bitcoin ETF could be a catalyst for a broader DeFi boom.
It's certainly possible, and it's not just institutional investors who are driving DeFi adoption. We're seeing increasing interest from individual investors as well. Crypto wallets are now offering built-in DX swaps, making it easier than ever for people to access DeFi services.
It's fascinating to see how these trends are converging.
It is.
We've got traditional finance dipping its toes into the crypto pool with ETFs, while DeFi is empowering individuals to take control of their finances and participate in this financial revolution.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. As blockchain technology continues to mature, we can expect even more innovation and disruption across various industries.
It's an exciting time to be in the crypto space, that's for sure, but it can also be daunting, especially for those who are new to this world.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out on their crypto journey?
First and foremost, don't let the complexity overwhelm you. Start by learning the basics.
Okay.
Understand what blockchain technology is and how it works.
There are some great resources available online and in books that can help with that.
Exactly. Once you have a basic understanding of the technology, start exploring different projects. Read their white papers, understand their use cases, and pay attention to the communities that are forming around them.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Definitely not.
The crypto community is generally very welcoming and helpful.
Absolutely. And remember, investing in crypto carries risks just like any other investment. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and always do your own research before making any decisions.
That's great advice. So we've talked about the dilution dilemma, the potential impact of regulation, and the rise of DeFi. But there's one more piece of the puzzle that we need to address. It's something that often gets overlooked in discussions about crypto, but it can have a profound impact on market sentiment: narratives.
Yes, narratives. They're the stories we tell ourselves about why something is valuable, why it matters, and why it's worth investing in. In the crypto world, narratives are incredibly powerful.
We've already touched on a few of them.
We have.
Bitcoin as digital gold, Litecoin as digital silver, Ethereum as the foundation of Web3. These narratives help people make sense of the complex world of crypto and give them a reason to believe in a particular project.
Right, and these narratives can shift and evolve over time.
Oh, interesting.
For example, Ethereum's narrative has expanded beyond just being a platform for smart contracts. It's now seen as the foundation of a decentralized internet, a movement that's gaining traction as concerns about censorship and data privacy grow.
So understanding the dominant narratives in the crypto space can give investors valuable insights into which projects are likely to attract attention and investment.
Absolutely. And it's not just about understanding the existing narratives, it's also about anticipating how those narratives might change in the future.
So, for example, if there's a growing concern about the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining, that could potentially shift the narrative in favor of more energy-efficient blockchains.
Exactly. And that could create opportunities for projects that are positioning themselves as sustainable alternatives. The key takeaway here is that narratives are not static. They're dynamic and constantly evolving.
It's like a game of chess where you need to anticipate your opponent's next move.
That's a good analogy. In the crypto market, the opponent is the collective sentiment of the community, the stories that people are choosing to believe in, and the trends that are shaping the future of this space.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the complexities of the Bybit heist to the surprising resilience of the altcoin market. And we've explored how narratives, regulation, and the flow of capital are all shaping the crypto landscape.
It's like piecing together a giant, constantly evolving puzzle.
Exactly. And I think one of the key takeaways for our listeners is that it's not just about chasing the latest hype or trying to time the market perfectly.
Right.
It's about understanding the fundamentals, doing your research, and developing a long-term perspective.
I completely agree. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day fluctuations of the market, but the real opportunities lie in identifying projects with strong fundamentals, a clear vision, and a dedicated community.
Like HyperLiquid with its focus on user experience and ecosystem building, or Aptos with its strategic positioning for simplified crypto payments.
Right, and it's not just about the technology itself, it's about understanding how that technology is being used to solve real-world problems and create new possibilities.
And how those solutions and possibilities are being communicated through compelling narratives that resonate with investors and users.
Precisely. And it's also about understanding the risks involved. We talked about the importance of security in the context of the Bybit hack, but there are other risks to consider as well, such as regulatory uncertainty, market volatility, and the potential for scams.
It's crucial to approach crypto investing with a healthy dose of caution and skepticism. Don't believe everything you read online, and always verify information from multiple sources.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. The crypto community is full of knowledgeable and passionate individuals who are willing to share their insights and experiences.
It's all about learning and growing together. Speaking of learning, I wanted to circle back to something we touched upon earlier, the delusion dilemma. We talked about how the influx of new tokens can create a liquidity vacuum, drawing capital away from more established projects. But what if we looked at this from a different perspective? Could there actually be a scenario where a consolidation of the market becomes beneficial?
That's a really interesting question, and it's one that I think a lot of people in the crypto space are grappling with. We've seen this incredible explosion of innovation with new projects popping up every day, but it's also led to a lot of fragmentation and noise.
It's like a garden that's become overgrown. You have all these plants competing for resources, and some of them are bound to wither away.
Exactly, and in a way, a market consolidation could be seen as a natural process of pruning and weeding.
Hmm.
It allows the strongest, most resilient projects to thrive while clearing out the weaker ones that aren't offering real value.
So instead of viewing this dilution dilemma as a purely negative phenomenon, we could also see it as a necessary step towards a more mature and sustainable crypto ecosystem.
I think that's a very astute observation, and it ties back to what we were saying earlier about the importance of a long-term perspective. Short-term fluctuations and hype cycles are inevitable, but the projects that survive and thrive in the long run are those that are building something truly valuable and solving real-world problems.
Like the saying goes, the cream always rises to the top.
Exactly. And as the crypto market matures, I think we'll see a greater emphasis on quality over quantity. Investors will become more discerning, and capital will flow to those projects that have demonstrated their ability to execute, innovate, and build lasting communities.
It's an exciting time to be a part of this evolution. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the crypto roller coaster, what's the one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
If I had to choose just one, it would be this. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The crypto space is constantly changing, and there's always something new to learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and think critically.
And remember, this is just the beginning. We're still in the early stages of what promises to be a revolutionary transformation of finance technology and society as a whole. Buckle up, folks, because the ride is just getting started. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.